Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mupo and Friends. Our very special guest today is a leader and expert in developing teams and people. She has interviewed, hired, trained, managed hundreds of employees. She successfully launched courses on leadership development, team alignment, and business growth. She hosts her own podcast, Workwoman. Please give a very warm welcome to the Executive Vice President of Operations for Cardone Ventures, Natalie Workman. Hello, Natalie.
Hello.
Hey,
How
Natalie.
are you? It was great to see you at GrowthCon.
It
That was
was
that was
okay.
such a great event.
It was a great event. I mean, how much energy that event had. There was just so many great people. Obviously, the speakers were incredible, but for us, what's so cool is getting to see our clients and people that we only get to see like this actually in person and hug them and say hello.
It was great. I met people I've known for 1 year virtually. Finally met them in person and all of you. So it was fantastic.
So cool. I love that.
And thank you for the FaceTime, by the way. So for those of you who know, I wasn't able to attend, but you made it possible to say hello to me on FaceTime, which was totally awesome. Now, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with the 10X mentality, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I found the 10X mentality through reading a book called The 10X Rule. I have it here on my desk for those of you watching. So the 10X Rule, it's a book that a guy by the name of Grant Cardone wrote, I think almost 10 years ago now. And I picked it up in 2019. And the whole idea behind it is anything that you want in this life that's a good thing, right? Any career promotion, any sort of relationship or things, maybe it's material things, whatever it is that you want in life to be able to contribute to and have, you need to set your goal 10 times what you think it is, because it is going to take 10 times more energy and effort and planning and time than you think to get to the original goal. So you might as well really be able to achieve the thing you want by going 10x with it, so that you put the right level of effort, you take it really seriously. I like to equate it to, if you have a weight loss goal of 4 pounds or 10 pounds, that might not be enough for you to really make all of the changes that you need to make to hit that. So if you move it from 4 pounds, 10xing that would be 40 pounds, which is a little bit ridiculous, but you want to do it more because you're actually going to train yourself to do the work that it's going to take in order to get to the original goal that you have.
It's setting higher goals so that you achieve the maximum, that the optimum level that you could go, always pushing yourself. If you don't, right, if you don't go for more, then you'll always go for less or stay comfortable.
Yeah.
And what is the importance of having your whole staff engaged in the 10X mentality?
Without your team really understanding this concept, I think business owners find themselves in this trap because they experience this motivation or this inspiration or this different way of thinking. And then they're responsible for setting these goals. But the people that actually help you achieve your goals as a business owner are your team. And if you don't take it as your responsibility to introduce these things and to coach people in your business, all of a sudden you're setting the expectation wrong, because you're thinking that it's going to be you that does it. And in order to actually get there, you need to be able to multiply that big think to not just yourself, but to your team.
Exactly.
And can you tell us about the Marketing Essentials Tour, the business summit that you have going on? Because I think it's very exciting.
Oh yeah, the business summit. So we have a group of experts in our organization that talk through marketing, finance, and people. And I am the people person in our organization. As you mentioned earlier, I have hired, fired, interviewed, and trained. It's honestly, I need to update that because I think it's in the thousands at this point, just because we've done it so much. I've hired, just in Cardone Ventures over the last 18 months, over 60 employees, and that doesn't count all of the interviews and the previous experience. So I should probably update that. But I talk about people and how you actually take people through a system, from how they hear about you, what the interview process looks like, how you onboard them, so that there really is a full cycle to get team members to where you want them to go. Our chief marketing officer, Buck Wise, teaches marketing. So while I'm in people, he's doing marketing and going really deep into the client journey, the customer cycle. being that flow, conversion, retention. And then our EVP of finance, Jeff, is in another room going deep into finance. And so what we love is we have people who, as one team, they'll put one person in marketing, one person in people, and one person in finance, so that all of those things can come together, because you need all three of those elements in order to truly run your business. And people who aren't as familiar with us, or maybe just want to dabble in all three, go to the Essentials Summit, which is a piece of all of it. In addition to that, there's also sales. So they're able to raise their people, raise their marketing, raise their finance skills, and then top it all off with the sales component, which if you don't sell anything, you're not going to have marketing spend to be able to push things forward. You're not going to be able to hire people, and your finances don't really make much difference at that point, because there's nothing to report on.
What is the most common reason that you find businesses fail?
The most common reasons, there's a lot of statistics out there. I think that the stated reason for what statistics say versus what actually happens are two very different things. Statistics say that businesses fail because they're undercapitalized. That's the primary reasons that most small business owners, or most small businesses, don't make it past that 4-year mark. And in reality, it's the lack of commitment to the promotion of that business, to creating a profit in that business, but primarily promotion. One thing that Grant has taught both Brandon and myself over the course of the last 2 years working with him is, even if it's not done yet, you promote where you are going, who you are doing it with, because that is what generates the income for you to actually go through with creating that product or serving people. And some people hear that and you're like, well, you're going to sell something before you have it. That creates the commitment. And as long as you're a good person, this is where people get hung up. There's this caveat. You have to be a good person and know that you will exchange with somebody, your customer, in abundance. So if I tell somebody I'm writing a book and I have them pay to write this, or pay to get this book once it's finished, they don't need to know that it's not finished. And me knowing that I've already made this commitment to however many people have purchased it will force me to exchange in abundance with them, because I already know that there's demand for this product. But if you do it the opposite way and you don't really promote it, and you expect people to just find your product because you're not promoting it, even though you need the capital right now, it's backwards. So businesses, if they could get out of their own way, especially in those startup phases of learning to promote what the product is, and then knowing, because they're a good person, that they're going to exchange in abundance, the promotion and the commitment from a client will pull them forward to make that product what it needs to be in order to serve the marketplace.
So you're stepping into reverse engineering from the completion, the goal, to what it took to get there.
Yeah. And what if nobody buys it? Like that's a very real thing. If nobody buys your product in the ideation process, having this muscle get big, and flexing this muscle of, I'm going to first put this idea out. And if nobody is buying it, they're back, and there are different opinions about this, but if nobody is buying it because there truly isn't demand, either I don't know how to promote, or the product isn't what it should be. And so you can make tweaks and shifts based on what the market is willing to pay for, what they're truly interested in. And that's the right way to do it anyway, instead of spending 2 years being in silence, building something, but you have no capital and there's so much risk to do it that way. It's just reversing the risk structure.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Definitely. Now, can you tell us how you develop programs like for leadership development, team alignment, and business growth?
Yeah, my entry into this was, I think, different than most. I was interning at a company that Brandon was running, and I was interning for his project manager. She was responsible for the administrative team. She had 12 team members on the administrative side. And then she was the only person that was really responsible for his leadership program. And at the time we were serving small businesses in the medical space. And so it was all geared towards, how do you take a sole business owner who maybe has 10 or 15 employees and really increase their leadership so that they're able to run a better business, maybe expand down the street so that they have a bigger footprint. And that really related to me because both of my parents are doctors and they both have their own small businesses, and they are so smart and the best doctors around, but nobody taught them how to be business owners. And so I was really passionate, even though as I was interning, a lot of it was on the administrative side of the business. I was really fascinated by this leadership stuff, and I kind of raised my hand to her and said, I'd love to work on this in whatever capacity you need me. And fast forward 2 months, her husband got diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she went to Brandon and said, I have to quit tomorrow. Like I have to take care of him. And he did end up passing away just a couple of months later. So she stepped out, and I was the only person that had any sort of grasp on what was happening with the development of this program. So it just kind of fell in my lap. I had never created a program before. I was horrible at project planning. I had no context into how to roll something out, publishing timelines, getting the team on board. I'll never forget, I brought cupcakes in. We rolled out this video series, and I brought cupcakes in that kind of coordinated with the theme of the video series to the team, thinking that that's what would get them to watch it. I don't know. It was just like all of these immature things because I didn't know anything, but there was nobody else to really do the work. And I was passionate about the leadership side. And so when you're passionate about something, that's not to say that it wasn't hard. It was a lot of hard work, but the passion for what the content was and the belief in it that's so tied to how I grew up and the struggles that I saw with my parents really allowed me to just continue to move forward with figuring it out. And that's like so many things in life. None of us know how to do what we're now doing. I mean, if somebody would have told you guys about a podcast 10 years ago, you'd be like, how do I do this? And what does a podcast look like? But you just figure it out because you see how it can make an impact, or you're passionate about it, or for whatever cause that's driving you towards. So that's really how I got started in the leadership development space, and have never really left it.
I love that story. We're going to have more. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. And we are back with Natalie Workman. So Natalie, we were talking about, you were mentioning your parents, and your parents are doctors. You come from a very educated background. What about people that don't have those skills? I know this is very important in business. How do you teach that to people that don't have that, and to have them develop certain skills?
Yeah, we talk about this concept in a lot of our teachings around this idea of a lid. And as people, all of us have lids on, we break it down in 3 different areas: on our belief system, like how we actually see the world. And if I only think that my value is at $40,000 a year, I'm never going to do what it takes from an operations standpoint to create more than $40,000 a year. And then I'm definitely not going to be able to lead myself or a team around me to get any higher than $40,000 a year. So this idea of a belief lid, an operational lid, and a leadership lid is at play in everything that we do. And so when I work with people who are younger, or people who just don't necessarily have the perspective on what's possible for them, it's always working on, well, which one of these lids needs to be raised first? And most of the time it is around their belief. But if you can't fix somebody's belief initially, one thing that is like a very quick win for people is teaching them how to be great at something, because people's backgrounds and how they grew up, all of that is very different. And that's not necessarily my place in the workplace, especially to really dive deep into that area. But if I can give somebody a role and show them how to do it, and then give them the feedback for them to become great at that role, all of a sudden they now know what true value looks like. And if I'm being valuable and learning new skills and developing myself in this operational effectiveness lid, all of a sudden my belief in what's possible goes up because I'm likely making more money because I'm being directed towards the right areas. And then if I can make that switch over to the leadership side to say in order to lead, you have to be great at this. You have to believe that you can be great at it. And then you have to teach other people how to do it. When you close the cycle on those three things, it really doesn't matter what type of education or what type of experiences people had in the past, because you're totally rewiring the framework at which they look at anything in their life. The same goes for personal relationships. If I'm really great at being the best girlfriend or wife or fiance or whatever you are, because I become, it's a weird way of looking at it, but operationally effective at that. I know what he or she really likes, and I know how to make them happy in this certain way. I'm then able to raise my belief that I am a good partner, and then can be able to demonstrate how that should look in my environment with my family, with the people that are looking at me as a role model or example, because I now see that that's my role. Grant and Elena Cardone talk about this often, where Elena remembers when she's like nitpicking with Grant or having like some issue, like, why are you, one of Brandon's things, he has these bottles everywhere and he like leaves bottles all over the place. And then in the moment, Elena would think to herself, wow, I'm really frustrated that he left this here, but am I really going to move away from our mission of being a power couple, which is a stated mission? I believe that I'm a power couple. But in the moment, if I'm talking about this, is that elevating that belief that I'm a power couple? Well, no. So I probably shouldn't do that. And on top of that, that leadership lid, if somebody else were to watch me do this and I'm saying that I'm a power couple, but we're talking about these stupid bottles that are everywhere, is that really what somebody in a leadership role would do? And so as you go through these filters, you're in everything in life, just rewiring how you would want somebody else to do something so that you do that in whatever situation that you're in.
It's staying neutral. You actually have the choice of how you're going to respond to something.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. People give that up oftentimes.
And I've heard you talk about emotional intelligence before. How would you develop someone to have that?
Another really good question. Self-awareness. I think that the first place to start, I'm not an expert in this, and when I've taken assessments or worked with people who are really good at these things, they give you they give you a bunch of tips and tools that you can use. And at the core of them, every single one that I've ever worked with for the last 8 years, it's always come down to my ability to be self-aware of not only the environment, but how I am engaging in that environment, how I'm asking questions, what intent I came into it with. Because oftentimes people just function with this lens on. They don't realize that they're asking too many questions, or they look disengaged. They're not even thinking about what anybody else is thinking of them. And it's not to be really critical of ourselves and to be really concerned what everybody is thinking, but it's to be really aware of, if I'm holding myself in this certain way, or if I'm looking distracted and not paying attention, that's going to be the perception this person has, and that's not what I'm trying to send. And so the emotional intelligence comes from my own ability to understand where I'm at in my environment and how people are going to perceive that. And ultimately, people who are really emotionally intelligent can use that to get what they want. Like if it's in a negotiation, if it's in a business deal, if it's with your significant other, like if I know where I'm at and I know what the environment is, and I know what I want, I can move throughout this environment to make sure that the things that I want happen because I'm aware of these things. So to the extent that you can be more emotionally or more self-aware now, I don't know how to teach somebody to be more self-aware. I think asking good questions would be a first place. A lot of people talk too much, and I think that that's like a blanket of how to help somebody is like stop talking and ask some more questions and really be naturally curious about your environment and the people in it.
And listening is so key.
Yes.
Sometimes people ask questions, they don't listen to the answer.
Yeah. You're so right.
Who mentored you in the 5 emotional practices?
Who mentored me?
In establishing your skills and the practices that you have?
You know, Brandon, my fiance, has been a huge mentor to me. I started working with him when I was 20, and there have been so many people that have come in my path that I either know personally or have never met and likely never will met that have been huge mentors. But I couldn't, when I look back
Right.
over my life, when I am on my deathbed, you know, I think a lot of people think about that. I know I certainly do. Brandon's had the greatest impact in my life, not just because he's my significant other, but the way that he chooses to lead himself and lead other people is something that I'm still learning from after having been with him for 8 years in this environment. The way that he leads the clients, the way that he leads our team, the way that he leads with friends, even how he engages with my parents and his patients and with his children. He continues to teach me things, and he puts himself in that role though. And I think a lot of people give up their power because they don't really view their role in this life as, I'm going to become really great at something so that I can mentor other people and how to move through these very difficult situations. And for whatever reason, at a very young age, he recognized that that's something that he could do because he had a lot of experiences growing up. And I'm very thankful that he is as patient with me as he is, but I'm also like a student, and I pay attention and I still take notes on things that he says. And it shocks me sometimes that people don't pay more attention when somebody is around, and not just, you know, to toot Brandon's own horn, but even a situation where Grant is in the room or at GrowthCon, all of these incredible speakers, and they don't take any notes, and they're not actually learning, and they're not trying to put the pieces together to create this map for, okay, if somebody else did this here, how can I leverage these little nuggets over on my path? Our paths are very different. They don't have to mirror each other, but success does leave clues. And if you're not really paying attention, it's not a question as to why you're not successful. It's pretty obvious. You're not even in the game because you're just pretending like that has nothing to do with you, and yet it has everything to do with you. And so Brandon, first and foremost, will always be the number one mentor in my life.
He's a
Well, you have it. Go ahead.
he's a genius. I have to listen to you guys. I listen to you, Grant, and Brandon every day. You an hour a day. I listen to Brandon like 2 hours a day, and Grant 2 hours a day. And I'm not kidding, because people come into work and they're like,
Mhm.
"What are you listening to?" And then I explain.
Mm.
It keeps me up. It motivates me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for including me with them. I feel like both of them have had major impacts in my life. But yeah, Brandon, the way that Brandon does his thing, and then also what makes our partnership at Cardo Ventures work so well is Brandon and Grant have had success in different ways and using different methodologies. And most of the time, the differences that people have really, especially when they're that successful, it forces them to go away from each other. And yet there's so much similarity between the two of them that Grant really speaks to one type of person and Brandon speaks to one type of person. But then there's also this overarching group of people that really can appreciate and learn from both. And I find myself in that area, like Grant with his grittiness and his sharper edges than Brandon does. Brandon like cries all the time and is a softie in so many areas. But so, as you said, he's smart, and he's learned from his mistakes and is willing to grow from that and share his learnings.
Well, you also teach how to, read people's body language too, because I've noticed that. Like you're an expert at that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm an expert at that, but I think it's because back to that self-awareness piece, I'm aware of myself in an environment and how, like, if my shoulders are back or if I'm looking like I'm disengaged, and I know what my intent is in any environment. My intent is to leave the space that I was better off than it was before I got there. And it's to create energy, because most people just abdicate that in an environment. We have so many team meetings, or I sit in our clients' team meetings. And as leaders, it's so important that people really represent the energy and actually create energy. And you can create the result that you want if you choose to believe that that's your responsibility. And so if I know that my job is to create energy or excitement or to make something actually go right that is currently going wrong, all of a sudden I have to be aware of, okay, are my shoulders back? Am I standing the way that I need to do? Am I conveying that I'm confident in this, even if I'm uncertain? But the team needs to know that I'm confident so that they can go do their pieces of it And so because I'm aware of myself doing it, I'm pretty aware when other people aren't doing it or just their deviations from that.
You're very powerful as a female leader. You're an extremely great role model for, I think, for women, both young and older. You've accomplished a lot in a short amount of time, it seems. So I just really, really amazing what your think and how you operate, how you handle yourself. You definitely are in with the three of them, and you were the main reason that you were the reason that Brandon and Grant got together to begin with. So that's very powerful. I was going to ask, among different ways to measure key performance indicators, how do you choose what data is the most important in reporting?
Such a good question. Don't get me going on key performance indicators. This is like talking dirty to me. I love you guys. And for me, my journey with key performance indicators, we take this assessment. It's called an R3 assessment, and it essentially measures your task focusedness versus your people focusedness. And then on the other axis, it's fast pace versus slow pace. And so I'm called an influencer on this. Has nothing to do with like social media influence, has everything to do with, I want a lot of people. I love being in a room with a lot of people and just having fast conversations. I am the opposite of somebody who is detail oriented. However, I have learned that in business, if you do not know what the key performance indicators are and how to drive behavior, it doesn't matter how many relationships or people you're talking to, if the structure is just going to fall apart. And so for like, I've self-taught this. And I think when people talk about key performance indicators, sometimes they just tune out because they think, oh, I'm not that type of person. And my point is, I was not that type of person either, but you have to believe that that is the thing that will either allow you to grow and survive or cause your business not to. And so as we're looking for key performance indicators across the businesses that we work with and even our own business, it's this big game of incentives for me. So I think of everything as, am I putting a carrot out in front of somebody in order to get this extra special thing because I know that it adds value? Or do I need to put in there some sort of stick that if they don't do this as part of their job, I need to create a policy because it is that important? And so when you first go into a department and try to figure out key performance indicators, what I do is I take the role of the top performer and I say, okay, if this is all of the things that they need to do, which pieces are the base part of their role, which should be tied to their salary? And then I look at the next level is, what is the incentive for, if anybody has 40 hours in their work week based off of their base role, the additional 20% of incentive compensation that I should offer them should be able to drive the business forward. And it doesn't get hit every single time. Sometimes it'll get hit 1 month, other months it might be 2 or 3 months until it gets hit. But it's supposed to be structured in a way that really is financially oriented with the business and making sure that the model works. And with key performance indicators, you just have to try it. The best way to get your business in this type of system and cycle is tying incentive compensation, because your team all of a sudden will demand that you figure it out. If you put the precedents in place that we are paying based off of the results that are created, it begs the question, what do results look like? And so the fastest way to get that is really just committing to your team, because they will be the push, and they will every single one-on-one or every time you meet with them one-off, like, so where are we at with the key performance indicator? Where are we at with the incentive compensation? Because everybody wants to make more money. Great. It's on you to figure out what drives the business so that people can know how they can make more money.
And can you recommend any particular systems
for tracking them?
Yeah.
For most small businesses, to be quite honest, key performance indicators, until you have 30 employees, can be tracked via Excel or Google Sheets. I highly recommend that businesses don't put in place these big tech systems, just because until you have the top performers in the roles that you want to be building and scaling, it's going to be in such flux anyway. And an Excel document, you're able to make changes in cells quickly. Whereas when you bring in a tech stack before 30 employees, before you really have like, this is exactly what a salesperson is responsible for, this is exactly how many calls, this is how we're going to track it. There's just too much inertia to really be nimble, to fight as hard as you can to figure out that answer as quickly as possible. But once you're at the 30 employee mark, we use a variety of different systems for tracking, and it really is department specific. So if it's more project-based, we use a system called Asana. And then for marketing, there's HubSpot, there's Kixi, there's a whole variety of different tools that we use in order to measure performance. And then visually, we have a platform called DataBox that shows all of us what those key performance indicators are and where we're tracking to them throughout any given day, week, or quarter.
Wow, I love it. You make data sound sexy.
Thank you. I've worked really hard at that.
Yeah, you've learned a lot. You really know your stuff. We're going to take a small break, and we're going to be back with more from Natalie Workman. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mupo and Friends. We are here with Natalie, and Heather has just joined us. Heather
Block. Let's
Block.
Applause for Heather Block.
Oh, that's amazing. Heather Block is in the house.
So, Heather, you have worked for quite some time with Brendan. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about how you got started and your journey.
Oh, that's a great question. So I started working with Brandon Dawson 12 years ago at a little company you might know called Audigy Group. It's the one that he sold for 151 million. So that was
that little thing.
Yeah, no big deal.
Small little thing.
Yeah, I started off actually just as a coordinator and worked my way up through, 7 different roles and positions, and helped to build departments, following everything that he basically teaches now. And then I worked over in the Stratus Dental business, which is the dental business, along with Natalie. And that's where she and I really kind of cut our chops together. Yeah, we became very, very close. And then with Cardone Ventures, the opportunity came up, 2 years ago now. Oh my gosh, March 31st will be officially 2 years since Brandon stepped on the stage at a 10X Sales Boot Camp. And I got to help. It was the 3 of us walking into that event together.
Just the 3 of us.
Yeah, and I got to help create his content for the presentation. And I mean, literally the rest is history, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
So I have a question, Heather. Are you going to package content creation and sell it for Cardone Ventures so that people like myself could learn how to do content and get, because I have the ability to do it, but I have to get it out there. So I'm listening to everything you guys are telling me, and we threw stuff up on the website, but now we need to put the content in.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And we've actually, Natalie and I have been talking a lot about this very thing, which is how do we create a coaching program around content development and how to get out there, make it meaningful, make it digestible, and something that people truly want to learn from. So maybe potentially coming soon.
I think coming soon. That would be an incredible course. I know a lot of people that would be interested in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a master.
And obviously, both of you have busy schedules, and that requires at Cardone Ventures a lot of time management. So how do you each manage your time effectively, and how would you recommend it to people in startup businesses, not just big companies, but even small companies?
I think anybody who's really trying to create something, like the first premise of this is sheer amount of hours. Like I work a lot of hours to get everything that I need to get done. And I know that the question is, okay, within time, how do you manage it? But I think defining what time looks like is important. So on any given day, especially when we're like at home and it's a work week, not as crazy as a week like a growth con, it is anywhere between 10 to 12 hours of phone calls, of emails, of working on projects every single day. And then there's pretty much always an event on the weekend. And so when you think about, okay, if I have 10 hours or I have 12 hours in a day to work on things, what is my primary role? Well, when you're in startup, it's a little bit different because you are responsible for selling, like you don't have a team to be able to help you. And so, okay, how am I minimizing my administrative time so that I'm able to sell, so that I can create a model for somebody else to come in and do that, so that I can be working on expansion of the business in other areas. We're not in that position. And so my role now has to do with leading our team members who are responsible to me. So I need to be able to help lead and guide them and to remove barriers and push projects and figure out, okay, are they too stretched right now, or can they handle some more? Because the business could handle more initiatives and more projects always. So it's kind of this dance that I play of when we're in the office, meeting with the people that need guidance and advice and pushing those initiatives forward. That's how I manage my time on any given day.
Yeah. I like that Natalie said, I think time is your perspective of what time is, because there's this notion out there that there's an 8-hour workday, 5 days a week. And so we all have this belief in our mind because that's what we're told, that's what it needs to be. And if you're not working within those parameters, you're working outside of them, suddenly you're infringing upon your personal life and you can't balance your time right, or you're working too much, which is just a broken belief. So I truly believe that if you're doing what you love, then it is saying, well, what are my average hours? I'm the same with Natalie. I'm a 10 to 12 hour a day, sometimes 7 days a week, depending on what's going on type of person. And what that looks like from a big picture perspective is I know it's going to contribute to where we're trying to go. I'm so bought into that, and I'm doing exactly what I love. So therefore it doesn't feel like work. That's not a cliche. That's the legit truth. Now, to your question though, on how do people manage that, like that block of time, it's all about looking at your daily activities and saying, I categorize. I say,
she's
like,
the queen of buckets.
I love buckets.
She's a bucketer.
I love buckets. Yeah, good, better, best. And meaning the best activities are the ones that are directly impacting the business right now. And then obviously there's good, which is the stuff that I need to get it done, but it also contributes to when I feel really, really busy. I don't feel like I get a lot of things done. That is the kind of the noise down here, but I got to get them done. So what I do is when I start my morning, I always start with the best. I start with things that I know are going to impact right now, and I skip over the good and the better, and I save those for maybe at lunchtime when I'm going to have some bites to eat. I'll answer emails and do kind of the fluff stuff that I need to get done. But when I get back to work, I always go back to the best category. So what's the highest impact that I can make right now? That's basically how I do it.
Love your buckets.
Buckets.
Awesome.
Love the buckets. Yeah, absolutely. Or like creating blocks of time too, for when you're measurable time that you're going to complete certain tasks.
Yeah, block your schedule. You make a great point. I mean, you've heard of block scheduling.
Right.
And literally, I help coach my team on this is, from 7, I'll actually with them, tell them block from 7 to 8:30. That's when you do the good activities, the emails and things like that. Then we have our 8:45. We have our all team meeting. That's on our calendar every day. And then you hit your high priorities right after that, because you have the most energy,
right?
Especially right after our morning meetings. We have so much energy coming off of that. It's like, that's when you attack the high revenue, high impact activities.
I was at HQ. It's the energy is just wow.
Oh, yeah.
It's so incredible.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. We want to implement that.
So how would you take a weakness and make it into a strength for both, for a professional and personal sense?
Can I take this?
Sure.
Well, don't think of it as a weakness. I mean, honestly, like
expand. Help me understand.
Because I think if you're thinking of it as a weakness, then what you think is what you say is what you do. So it will be a weakness because you're thinking of it as such. Instead, think of it as an improvement area. Like changing your vernacular is really important for mindset and applying that action. And then it's just saying, okay, who is around me that is really good, where I need to improve, who is really good at this, And this is the mentor aspect. Go find that person and ask them, like you're asking us for some tips, right? Like that's the same thing there. And then apply it. So it's actually doing something with it. But I think it starts with thinking and using the right terminology.
It's funny. I was going to start with like, you should be who you are. Like if you're not good at something, it's actually, just think about this in the context of Brandon just the other day. He's not good at email management. Same with Buck. Like they are not like email detail people. However, they're freaking great at creative thinking and pushing and presence. There's so many things that like they will always be that. And so for me, I could get frustrated that it's a weakness would be the management side of things, but I don't want them to get better at that because somebody else can do that. I need them to be good at that. Now there is a difference where there are like actual pieces of someone's communication habits, or like they might not know much about the financial side of the business, so that they should learn that. But it's, I guess, to your point, which is where you and I are like in perfect alignment. That's where you like pick a mentor and you figure out, okay, I know I need to get better at this, but it's not really a weakness. It's just, I don't know anything about this. So I need to raise my own ability to know more so I can be competent in that area.
Exactly.
It's dealing. I love it. You guys are a great team. Dealing with the different personalities, like style flexing and learning how you operate. Some are analysts, some are controllers, some are, I think you have found that perfect blend of knowing how to speak to people's think.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
I was going to say in one of your podcasts, because I listen to you. So in one of your podcasts, you talked about COVID opportunities. Would you elaborate on that for the people who aren't in the 10X mentality that are going to be listening?
Yeah, the opportunities that have come with COVID. Is that what I was talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Like
just clarifying. For me, it's sometimes eye-opening, and I appreciate that you're coming at this question for people who aren't part of the 10X community, because it can be a bit of a bubble at times, but it's a very intentionally created bubble. And what I mean by that is when I'm interviewing candidates for our organization, they'll just make these offhanded comments like, this last year wasn't very good for all of us, and they'll generalize. And our business has 3x'd over the last 12 months and created an opportunity for us to be able to help business owners. Whereas a lot of people are looking at it as business owners have been devastated during this time. Yes, there are areas where businesses really did struggle. However, that is the opportunity to be able to say, as entrepreneurs, the primary role that you play in creating an idea and starting from scratch is solving people's problems. Like that is what business is about. It is, I have a problem, you paint, or this person has a problem, this person has a solution, the person with the problem pays the person with the solution. And so in a world where we've never had more problems, that equals the solution path and the opportunity for somebody to come along and say, I can help in this area. Let me do this. Like, tap me in, coach. I'm ready for this. And so COVID has created all of these problems, but somebody will figure out a way to not capitalize on it in a bad way, but capitalize on the opportunity to solve problems that people are truly having and to remove those problems or to shift them. And that's what we've so focused on over the last 12 months, is just adding so much value, because COVID created the opportunity for us to do that, because business owners all of a sudden were able to communicate like this, and they had to slow down in order to ramp back up. And Brandon released a book called The Emergency Business Response in this process, and we just went to frickin' work because there was an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you created the curriculum, the emergency rescue, and that was an incredible program for people to learn to pivot instead of panicking. Pivoting during such an extreme time. I mean, this was one thing that went on in the world. There could be others in the future. Knowing how to turn that around is key, and you guys mastered it. And for people out there looking to get involved in Cardone Ventures and to come on the 10X mindset, what curriculums do you recommend they start with?
I would say the emergency business response, because
Absolutely.
any business, regardless of the emergency that was this last year, was obviously COVID and shutdowns. But any business at any point in time can quickly go into a state of emergency when they lose that key salesperson or when they lose that big account. Businesses aren't as stable as people think they are. And so the best place where we really dive into our leadership philosophies and how to set up your business structurally to avoid emergency would be the emergency business response, which you can find at www.cardoneventures.com/emergency. And it's a free book. I actually have it right here with this amazing guy on the cover of it. And it says the resource guide for any business to thrive.
And you also have it as an ebook as well.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Straight
Yeah.
to your email.
And say that website again.
cardoneventures.com/emergency.
There you have it.
I noticed Heather's wearing some CV attire there. I'm dying to get myself a CV shirt. Look, I went and got the 10X Life shirt. So
There you go. We're getting there. We're close.
yeah, right. I got
What
it.
do you
That was nice.
Oh, you're going to have to get her a Cardone Ventures something, or I'm
obsessed
never
with
going to hear at the
Cardone.
end of it.
So, just out of curiosity, have you read all of Grant's books?
Every single one of them.
So, okay, my favorite is Sell or Be Sold. What is your favorite?
Celery Sold's my favorite.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I've listened. I've actually listened to the audio all the time, and I've read the book probably like 20 times.
So
That's
good.
awesome.
Like I love the 10X rule. Be obsessed or be averaged is awesome. But for me, sell or be sold. It's just so simple and so practical. Every single thing in life, 100 times a day, somebody is selling you something, or you can choose to sell them. And and once you realize that you have that much power, you're like, oh shit, I don't know how to sell anything. Okay, let me read the rest of this book so I can figure out how to be persuasive to get the things that I want in life.
And I know Grant has said too that the way that you as a consumer act is the response that you're going to get from the people that you try to sell. So it's so important on your thinking and the way you think about yourself as a consumer, just as much as being the seller.
So true.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a quick break and be right back in a few minutes.
Welcome back to Mupo and Friends, and we are here with Natalie Workman and Heather Block, and we are going to do a quick little fill in the blank before we go. So both of you can participate in this. I'm going to start a phrase or a sentence, and you end it. Okay. My non-negotiable is
Going to bed at 9:30.
the best. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
The best business advice.
Oh, be disciplined.
And what the legacy I would like to leave in this world.
Impacting lives. What about you? Yeah, totally. Alignment.
Impacting lives. Thank you both so much for gracing this show, and it's just been such a pleasure to have you on. Such a pleasure to meet you, Natalie, in person and virtually. So until next time, folks, make sure that you look for Natalie Workman's podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify under Work Woman, and on her YouTube channel at Natalie Workman. You can follow, like, subscribe to Natalie Workman on Facebook under Natalie Workman, at Natalie Carol Workman, on Instagram at Natalie Workman, on LinkedIn under Natalie Workman, and at her website, natalieworkman.com. And Natalie, do you have any upcoming events? Anything that your people can come to?
Yes, for sure. We have what's called a business summit coming up. I know we talked a little bit about the people side earlier. So all of our events that we're going to be at are found at cardoneventures.com/events. Would love to see people at the business summit.
Come join us.
Absolutely. And Heather, where can people can go to Instagram? People, you got to go to 10X Live, Owners Live. That's on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and you will find Heather there and Natalie both, and
Heather
Brendan
is
Dawson
Heather
and
Block.
Buck Wise.
Heather is the Heather Block on Instagram.
The Heather Block on Instagram.
Heather
Or-
Block is already taken, so this is the Heather Block.
Dang. Thank
Heather
you
Block.
guys so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. As
Good enough.
always, everyone, this is Mupo and Friends. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Holly Lombardi with your host and CEO and mastermind of Mupo Entertainment, Michelle Mupo. And until next time, we are over and out.
Love it.